Please don't fire me." She didn't know that those words would expose a dangerous secret, start a silent war, and force a powerful CEO to do the unthinkable. The 35th floor of Summit Solutions operated in a symphony of silent efficiency. The air was chilled, recycled, and smelled of a mixture of expensive coffee and contained ambition. Outside the panoramic windows, New York City stretched out like a kingdom of endless possibilities. But inside, at the floor's reception desk, Elena's world was defined by the edges of her impeccably organized workspace. She was the calm epicenter of an invisible hurricane, the silent gear that ensured the floor's luxury watch never fell a second behind. With the headset pressed to her ear, her voice was a calm melody of professionalism. "Of course, Mr. Henderson. I'll take care of it immediately. The conference room will be ready." While her mouth soothed an impatient investor, her fingers danced across the keyboard, rescheduling 3 conflicting meetings with the precision of an air traffic controller. With her free hand, she discreetly corrected a calculation error on slide 14 of a crucial presentation, an error she knew would make her supervisor, Camila, have a meltdown if she noticed it first. Okay, Marcus's meeting with the investors was pushed to 3 p.m., which shoves the finance lunch to tomorrow, but they need the numbers today. I'll have to ask the data department to rush, and the error on slide 14 isn't just a typo, it's a miscalculation that underestimates the growth projection by 4%, an error that would make the entire department look incompetent. I have maybe 90 seconds to fix it before Camila's predatory eyes land on it. She saved the corrected file and sent it, a microsecond before an email from Camila arrived, asking about the presentation's status. Elena replied with a simple, "All set and double-checked." She leaned back, allowing herself a single, invisible sigh of relief. It was in that moment that the sound of expensive heels clicking on the polished marble announced the arrival of the storm itself. Camila approached, her presence filling the space. She wore a designer dress that cost more than Elena's rent, and her smile was a work of art in corporate cordiality, perfect, polished, and completely devoid of warmth. With a precise, almost surgical gesture, she placed her empty porcelain cup on the edge of Elena's desk, the soft clink a disguised command. "Elena, darling, be an angel and get me another one. Black this time. And after that, check my afternoon schedule. I feel like it's a mess." "Elena, darling, be an angel and get me another one. Black this time. And after that, check my afternoon schedule. I feel like it's a mess." Elena lifts her gaze, her professional expression perfectly in place. "Of course, Camila. I'll take care of it immediately. The conference room will be ready." Camila's smile tightened, an almost imperceptible shift, but one that Elena had learned to read as a danger signal. "I'm sure Mr. Thorne's world won't stop turning if his schedule is off by a minute, unlike mine, which, as you know, actually impacts people's jobs. Now, the coffee, please." She walked away, leaving a trail of her expensive perfume and the order hanging in the air. Breathe. That's the mantra. Inhale the recycled air that smells of her victory. Exhale the frustration that burns in your throat. Don't let her see the crack. A crack leads to a break, and a break leads to unemployment, and unemployment leads to... No, don't go there. Don't look at the drawer with Mom's hospital bill. Just breathe. Get up. Get the damned coffee. Smile. Be the good, invisible girl they pay you to be. With the composure of a diplomat, Elena stood up. Each step toward the kitchenette was a small battle won against the silent scream of frustration that echoed inside her. Internal Elena's apartment, Queens, night. Elena's apartment was her sanctuary. Small, with second-hand furniture she had refurbished herself, but every corner exuded warmth and care. It was the only place in the world where the walls didn't judge her, where she could finally take off the armor of efficiency she wore all day. The smell of the tomato soup she was heating on the stove was the smell of home, simple and comforting. But on this night, the sanctuary felt like a prison. The silence wasn't peaceful, but heavy, filled with the anxiety she had carried home from the office. On the small kitchen table lay a letter, a white, formal envelope from the medical center that seemed to scream at her ever since it arrived. Elena ignored it, focusing on her nightly ritual. She changed out of her business suit and into a soft, worn-out sweatshirt, the uniform of her other life, her real life.
Her phone rang, and her mother's face, Sarah's, lit up the screen. Sarah's smile was Elena's sunshine, but today it was a sun filtered through clouds of pain. "Sarah, hi, my love. I didn't want to bother you. I know you get home exhausted." The effort it took for Elena to smile back was Herculean. She pushed down the exhaustion, the humiliation from Camila's coffee demand, the fear that the letter on the table represented, and forged a smile just for her mother. "Never, Mom. Seeing you is the best part of my day. How are you feeling? Really?" "Oh, you know, the good days and the bad days come and go. Today was a quiet day. The doctor called earlier, mentioned that new immunotherapy treatment again. He seemed so optimistic." Elena saw the hesitation in her mother's eyes, the pause that always came whenever the topic turned to money. Sarah was trying to protect her, a maternal instinct that broke Elena's heart, because the roles were reversed now. It was Elena who was supposed to do the protecting. "And that's great. Optimism is what we need. Don't you worry about anything else. Just focus on resting and getting stronger, okay? I'll handle the rest." "You already handle everything, sweetie. Sometimes I feel like I have the strongest mother in the world, and I would do anything for you. Anything. I love you." After the call ended, Elena's mask crumbled. The smile vanished, and the weight of the world returned to her shoulders with full force. "I'll handle the rest." The phrase echoed in her ears, an echo of her promise and her powerlessness. Her eyes were drawn to the envelope on the table. With trembling hands, she opened it. It wasn't just a bill. It was a detailed statement for the cost of the new treatment, a number with so many zeros it seemed to belong to another reality. It wasn't a number on a piece of paper. It was a brick wall rising between her mother and a chance to live. "Handle it." What a cruel joke. It's the phrase I use to soothe her fears so she can sleep at night. But what happens when the person who says they'll handle it knows there's no way to handle it? She opened her laptop, the screen's glow illuminating her despair. Her online banking page showed the grim reality. Her salary, which seemed so large when she first got the job, evaporated. Rent, utilities, the pharmacy, groceries. What was left was a single drop of water trying to put out a forest fire. The number on the computer screen and the number on the bill seemed to be on different planets. How? How does anyone do this? I don't go out. I don't buy clothes. My only luxury is the streaming service I use to watch movies with Mom over video call. I've already sacrificed everything I can. My small dreams, my little joys, and it's not even close. Love doesn't pay for chemotherapy. Dedication doesn't pay for surgeons. And my promise to handle it is just air, empty words. She rested her head in her hands, the smell of the now forgotten tomato soup on the stove. A single, silent tear rolled down her face and landed on the bill, blurring the ink. It wasn't a tear of sadness. It was a tear of fury. Fury at a system that put a price on her mother's life. Fury at her own inability to beat that system. In that moment, in the silence of her kitchen, a dangerous promise began to take shape in her heart. She would do anything. and the universe was about to test that promise. The universe, it seemed, heard Elena's silent promise. At the peak of her despair, as she stared at the medical bill as if it were a death sentence, her phone buzzed on the table. A message from her best friend Jessica lit up the screen. "Have a crazy idea that could fix everything. Call me. Urgent." A spark of hope, dangerous and fragile, ignited in Elena's chest. She wiped her face and answered the video call. Jessica's face appeared, vibrant and full of an energy that seemed to belong to another planet. It was the face of someone who didn't spend her nights calculating medical debt. "Lena, thank God. Look, I know you're at your limit, and I know you've said no to all my ideas, but this is different, I swear." "Jess, if this is another investment scheme or—" "No, nothing like that. This is real. It's fast, and it's a lot of money. One night, just one night of work, and you make the money for your mom's treatment. Maybe even enough to cover the next 6 months."
The amount mentioned was so absurd that Elena almost laughed, but the seriousness on Jessica's face stopped her. "One night? Doing what, Jessica? No one pays that kind of money for one night of honest work." Jessica took a deep breath, her vibrant smile faltering for an instant. She knew that what she was about to propose would cross a line. "It's an event, super exclusive, at one of those party mansions in Soho that look like movie sets. The agency I do hostess work for is providing the entertainment. They need girls to serve drinks, wear a specific outfit, be charming. The payout is $10,000 in cash at the end of the night." The words entertainment and specific outfit hung in the air, heavy with meaning. The fragile hope in Elena's chest turned to ice. The job wasn't just about serving drinks. "Elena," her voice is a horrified whisper. "What kind of outfit?" Jessica, she looks away for a second. "Lena, they're party outfits. Sensual. Short. It's part of the atmosphere of the place. You don't have to do anything. Just serve, smile, and dance a little if the music is good. It's a character for one night. Nobody there knows you." Internal monologue. $10,000. The number echoed in Elena's mind, crashing violently against the image of the bill on her table. She felt a wave of nausea. The shame was a physical sensation, hot and suffocating. She who spent her days trying to be invisible was now being asked to turn herself into an object to be looked at, to be appraised. "Elena," her voice is firm for the first time. "No, Jessica, no, I can't. I'm not that person. That's not me." Jessica, her tone is soft, desperate to help. "Nobody is that person, Lena. It's a uniform, like your stuffy little suit at the office. You put it on, you do the job, you take it off, and you're back to being you. The difference is, this uniform pays in one night what your office pays in 3 months. Think about your mom. Think about the relief on her face." The mention of her mother was a precise and devastating blow. The call ended, but Jessica's proposal remained, poisoning the air of the small apartment. Elena looked at the medical bill, then at the pitiful balance of her bank account on the laptop screen. Internal monologue. "That's not me. But who am I right now? Am I the daughter who watches her mother suffer because her own pride is more important? Am I the woman who values her own dignity above the chance at life for the person who gave me mine?" She imagined herself at the party, the leering eyes of men on her, the humiliation. Bile rose in her throat. But then she imagined the other scene, the doctor shaking his head saying, "I'm so sorry, there's nothing more we can do." And the choice became clear. It wasn't a choice, really. It was a surrender. A trade. She would trade one night of her dignity for the possibility of years of life for her mother. In that moment, sitting alone in her kitchen, Elena made the hardest decision of her life. She would put on the mask. She would become a character.
Exclusive party mansion, Soho, Saturday night. The transition from the desperate silence of Elena's apartment to the cacophony of the party mansion was brutal. The air was thick, vibrating with the deep bass of a song that seemed to pulse up from the floorboards. Strobe lights swept through the crowd, capturing fragments of smiling faces, expensive watches, and glittering dresses. The smell was an intoxicating and nauseating mix of perfume, spilled whiskey, and power. To Elena, this wasn't a party, it was a sensory battlefield, and she was completely unarmed. Her armor, or rather her lack of thereon, was the source of her agony. Jessica had called it a party outfit. The reality was an ensemble of black straps and lace that felt more like a suggestion of clothing than an actual garment. Every inch of exposed skin felt like it was screaming under the gazes that swept over her, appraising her. She tried to shrink, to cross her arms, a futile gesture to protect herself from the avalanche of unwanted attention. Her entire body burned with humiliation. The mask she had promised herself she would wear felt like it was made of glass, revealing the panic underneath. In a raised VIP booth overlooking the controlled chaos, Marcus Bourne watched the scene with an expression of regal boredom. He was an island of stillness in an ocean of movement. While his friends laughed loudly and competed for attention, he sipped his whiskey, looking like an anthropologist studying a tribe with which he felt no kinship. His eyes scanned the crowd without interest, passing over Elena without recognition, his mind clearly elsewhere, perhaps on a multi-billion-dollar merger or on his own self-imposed loneliness. An event organizer, a woman with a smile as fake as the plants in the lobby, grabbed Elena's arm. Organizer, her voice as a shout to be heard over the music. "The VIP booth, Marcus Thorne's group, they're running on empty. Get up there and make sure they never are. Be memorable." The name Marcus didn't register in Elena's mind. There were so many powerful men here. What mattered was the order. Her heart, which was already pounding, began to race. It was like being pushed into the lion's den. With a trembling tray in her hands, she climbed the steps, each one a sacrifice in the name of her love for her mother.
As she approached the table, one of Marcus's friends, David, his eyes already glazed over with alcohol, fixed on her. A slow, predatory smile spread across his face. Elena kept her gaze low, focused on the task of serving the drinks without spilling anything. As she leaned in to place the last glass on the table, David's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. His touch was hot and damp, his grip too firm. "Whoa, what's the rush, Angel? The party's right here. Sit down. Give the birthday boy a good luck kiss." A blinding, white-hot panic seized Elena. Her body froze. The tray trembled in her free hand. The laughter of the other man at the table sounded distant, as if coming from underwater. She tried to pull her arm away, but David's grip tightened. "Please, let me go. I have to work." David laughed. The sound was cruel. "This is your work, sweetheart, keeping me happy. And right now, I want you to sit." He began to pull her down toward his lap. The humiliation was so overwhelming that tears began to well in Elena's eyes. It was then that a voice cut through the noise. It wasn't loud. It was cold, precise, and heavy as steel. "Marcus?" "David, let go of her arm." The authority in Marcus's voice was so absolute that time seemed to stop. The laughter died. David froze, his drunken smile vanishing. "What's the deal, Marcus? It's just some fun." Marcus didn't raise his voice. He just tilted his head, and his gaze became lethal. "Now." The word hit David like a slap. He released Elena's wrist instantly as if he'd been burned. Elena scrambled back, the air returning to her lungs in a painful gasp. She rubbed her wrist, the red marks of his fingers on her skin, and then she made the mistake of looking up to thank her savior.
Her gaze met Marcus's, and Elena's entire world collapsed. It wasn't a stranger, it wasn't an anonymous client, it was the CEO. The man whose picture hung in the lobby of her office building, the man who had the power to crush her career with a snap of his fingers. And he was seeing her here, in this place, dressed like this. The terror she felt was so deep, so absolute, it surpassed the humiliation and the fear. It was the terror of total annihilation. The terror that seized Elena was twofold: the fear from the assault she had just endured, and the overwhelming panic of being discovered. Her mind screamed at her to run, to disappear, but her feet felt bolted to the floor. Marcus, however, misinterpreted her pale shock as merely the aftermath of the harassment. He had no idea that her true terror in that moment was him. With a coldness that required no further argument, he turned to his stunned friends. "The night is over. Find my driver downstairs, he'll take you home." It wasn't a suggestion, it was a dismissal. His friends, including a now sobering and frightened David, got up without a word and retreated. As the booth fell silent, the party's music seeming distant, Marcus turned back to Elena. The hardness in his face had dissipated, replaced with a concern that disarmed her. "Are you okay? For real? Did he hurt you?" "No, I'm fine. Thank you. I have to go now." She tried to turn away, but his voice stopped her, not with authority, but with a gentleness that was almost more shocking. "Wait, please, just sit down for a minute. You're still shaking." What do I do? What do I do? If I run, he'll think I'm ungrateful. If I stay, will he recognize me? Has he already? What's worse? Oh God, what's worse? Obeying seemed like the least dangerous option. She perched rigidly on the edge of a velvet armchair, futilely trying to use her hands to cover as much of her body as the revealing outfit allowed. He sat at a respectful distance, creating a bubble of calm in the middle of the chaos. "I'm truly sorry for my friend's behavior. It was inexcusable. What's your name?" My name is your employee. My name is the person who arranges your schedule. My name is my employee ID number. To tell the truth feels like a confession, a sentence." "Mia. My name is Mia." Marcus offers a small, tired smile. "Well, Mia, I thank you for not throwing the entire tray at his head. He would have deserved it."
That glimpse of humor, of humanity, cut through Elena's panic for a second. Underneath the facade of the billionaire CEO, there was a man who was treating her with a decency no one else in that party had offered. Marcus, for his part, was completely captivated. In his world of fake smiles and calculated ambitions, this woman's raw vulnerability and silent dignity were like a beacon. She was a puzzle, and he suddenly felt an overwhelming desire to solve it. As the party began to thin out, Elena slipped toward the exit, her only thought to call a car and escape to the safety of her apartment. But Marcus's tall figure intercepted her near the door. "Let me take you home. This neighborhood isn't safe to wait for a car at this hour, especially alone." "You don't have to, really. I can manage." Marcus. His tone was gentle, but it brooked no argument. "I insist. Please, just for my own peace of mind." Refusing a direct order from her CEO seemed like professional suicide. With a sense of inevitability, she nodded. The interior of his car was another universe. The black leather was soft, the air smelled of something clean and expensive, and the silence was so profound she could hear her own heart beating. It was a silence heavy with everything that wasn't being said. This isn't happening. I'm sitting in the car of the CEO of Summit Solutions, wearing next to nothing. He defended me from his own friend, and he doesn't know who I am. Or does he? What am I going to do on Monday? Should I quit? I can't, not with Mom's bills. I just have to survive this car ride. Just survive. Marcus, breaking the silence, his eyes fixed on the road. My friends, they live in a bubble. They forget that the world is made of real people, with real feelings. It's a character flaw I've tolerated for far too long. It wasn't an apology. It was a confession, an act of distancing himself from his world and somehow aligning himself with hers. It created a fragile, temporary bridge over the chasm that separated them. When she gave him an address 2 blocks from her own, he just nodded. As he pulled the car over, he turned to her, the glow of the streetlights passing over their faces. Delivered. Safe and sound. Thank you. For everything tonight. Really. She got out of the car before the moment could stretch, before he could ask any more questions. Marcus didn't drive off right away. He watched the woman named Mia disappear into the building, a strange feeling forming in his chest. It was the absolute certainty that her name wasn't Mia, and the need to find out who she really was, what a woman with such intelligent, sad eyes was doing in a place like that, became a mission, an obsession he hadn't felt in a long, long time. Monday arrived not as a day of the week, but as a day of judgment. Every step Elena took toward her office was fueled by an overwhelming anxiety. She had spent the entire weekend replaying Saturday night, the gratitude for Marcus's protection and the terror of his discovery. In her conservative gray suit and with her hair pulled back in a professional bun, she hoped to transform back into the invisible secretary, praying that he wouldn't recognize her, or worse, that he would ignore her completely. She hurried into a crowded elevator, feeling a brief sense of relief that blending in with the crowd. For one glorious instant, surrounded by other employees, she was anonymous again. Invisible. The steel doors began to close, and Elena let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. But her salvation was short-lived. A hand, clad in a cuff of an expensive shirt, stopped the doors at the last second. Marcus Thorne stepped inside. The crowd in the elevator parted for him like the Red Sea, and the unavoidable shift pushed Elena forward, placing her directly in his line of sight. Time slowed. His gaze, sweeping the space with the efficiency of a CEO, landed on her. For a fraction of a second, it was the vacant look he gave hundreds of employees. But then something shifted. A spark of recognition flashed in his eyes, confusion forming as he connected the woman in the professional suit to the Mia from the party. No, please, no. Look away. Pretend you don't see me. Pretend it didn't happen, please. But it was too late. The recognition was mutual and undeniable. The 35-floor ride stretched into an eternity. With each floor, the elevator emptied, and the space between them grew more obvious, the tension becoming more dense and more suffocating. The hum of the elevator was the only sound, a hum that seemed to amplify the frantic beating of Elena's heart. Finally, the last person exited, and the doors closed, leaving them alone in the oppressive metallic silence. He turned to her, his face an impenetrable mask. He opened his mouth to speak, and Elena's last shred of control shattered. The image of her mother, the medical bill, the humiliation of the party, the fear of losing everything, it all came flooding to the surface in a tidal wave of panic. The words tumbled out of her mouth before she could stop them, a broken plea from the very bottom of her soul. Please, don't fire me. In the exact instant that the last word of her appeal hung in the air, a soft chime rang out, and the elevator doors slid open. Standing right outside, waiting to go down, was Camilla.
Her expression was one of rehearsed impatience, but her sharp, perceptive eyes took in the scene instantly. You didn't need to be a genius to read the situation. Elena, standing there, looking like a frightened child, her face stained with silent tears she hadn't even realized had fallen. Marcus, the most powerful man in the company, in a tense and uncomfortable proximity with her. And the words, the words that hung in the air, heavy with a delicious secret. Don't fire me. Well, well, what do we have here? The little gray mouse of the office begging the king for her life? This is unexpected and immensely promising. Camila showed nothing. She merely raised an elegant eyebrow, as if she were only surprised to find the elevator occupied. But inside, her strategic mind was already working at high speed, calculating the angles, the possibilities. She didn't know the story, but she had just been handed the most valuable gift in the corporate world: leverage. The fear on Elena's face was a resource to be exploited. She stepped into the elevator, sweeping past them as if the scene were nothing at all, the scent of her perfume cutting through the tension. Her presence broke the spell. Marcus looked from Elena to Camila's back, his jaw tight with anger at the intrusion. The private moment of vulnerability had become a public spectacle. He turned to Elena, his voice low but hard as a diamond. "Marcus, my office, 5 minutes." He strode out of the elevator, his steps wide and furious, leaving Elena behind. The doors closed, trapping her with Camila, who turned with a slow, predatory smile. Elena was trapped between the command of a furious CEO and the smile of a predator who had just caught the scent of blood in the water. The nightmare hadn't ended, it was just beginning. Marcus Thorne's office wasn't just a room, it was a statement of power. The air was thin, the silence profound. A single wall was made entirely of glass, offering a breathtaking view of Manhattan, as if the city itself lay at his feet. For Elena, who entered with trembling legs, the place felt like the top of a mountain she was about to be thrown from. She stopped at a respectful distance from the mahogany desk, which was the size of her bedroom, and waited for her sentence. Marcus watched her in silence for a moment that stretched into an eternity. He wasn't angry. His expression was something far more complicated, a mixture of curiosity, frustration, and an intensity that made her feel completely exposed. "First, breathe. You're not being fired." A sigh of relief almost escaped Elena's lips, but she suppressed it. The relief was only temporary, she knew. "Let's be clear. What you do in your own time is your business, as long as it doesn't affect your work. And frankly, your performance reviews are flawless. You are objectively one of the most efficient employees on this floor." He paused, walking over to the window. "However, we have a complication named Camila. She now believes she has a weapon against you, and the best way to neutralize a weapon is to make it irrelevant." A complication, that's what I am. A glitch in his perfectly ordered matrix, an error that needs to be managed. So, we're going to change the narrative. As of today, you're being transferred. There's a highly confidential market analysis project I'm leading personally. I need a research assistant, someone with an attention to detail and, more importantly, someone who is discreet. You will report directly to me, and only to me. Elena was stunned, trying to process the turn of events. Fear and confusion battled within her. To work directly for him, the proximity was both a protection and a danger. "Sir, I appreciate it, but I'm not sure I'm qualified for market analysis. My work has been administrative." "You're intelligent, organized, and after what I witnessed on Saturday, I know you can handle high-pressure situations. Besides, you know how to keep a secret. That qualifies you more than half the overpaid analysts I employ. The decision is final. Meeting room 3 tomorrow, 8 a.m. You're dismissed." The final word rang out, ending the conversation. Elena left the office, her mind spinning. She had survived. But as she left the lion's den, she realized she had walked straight into his cage. NT Summit Solutions office, same day. On the other side of the floor, Camila was in her own habitat, the hunt. The scene in the elevator had been an unexpected gift. The little gray, invisible mouse of the office had a secret. And secrets in the corporate ecosystem were the purest form of power. The question wasn't if she would find out, but how quickly.
Her first target was Jessica. Camila found her near the coffee machine, approaching her with the concern of a longtime friend. "Camila, Jessica, darling, so good to see you. Listen, can I ask you something? It's about Elena. I saw her earlier, and she seemed so distraught. Did something happen with her over the weekend? I was genuinely worried. You know how it is. We women have to look out for each other." Camila's performance was flawless. The mention of looking out for each other was the masterstroke, a knife of fake sorority that made Jessica lower her guard, feeling guilty. Jessica: "Oh, not that I know of. It was just a tiring weekend for her, I think." Camila: "Oh, the poor thing. I imagine it's because of her mother. Such a difficult situation. And with the bills piling up, it's just heartbreaking. Was she trying to make some extra money, maybe?" The trap was sprung. Jessica, wanting to defend her friend, stumbled right into it. Jessica: "Yes, exactly, that's all it was. Some extra work at an event to help her mom. Nothing serious." Bingo. It was the only clue Camila needed. Event, extra money, the desperation. Back at her desk, she got to work. With the efficiency of a detective, she cross-referenced information. She searched for exclusive corporate events in Soho last Saturday. She used one of her sources to get a list of hired entertainment companies. Jessica's agency's name came up. A quick phone call and a little charm were enough to get confirmation. The agency had provided hostesses and dancers for a private party on Saturday night. A slow, cold, and absolutely victorious smile spread across Camila's face. The image formed in her mind with delicious clarity. The prim and proper little Elena in a revealing outfit, serving drinks to rich men. The hypocrisy was magnificent. She didn't know how yet, but she had just found the key that would unlock every door she desired. Elena's secret was currency, and she was about to spend it. Interior, Meeting Room 3, next day. Meeting Room 3 became Elena's new universe. It was a small, anonymous space, without the panoramic view of Marcus's office, but to her it was the most exciting and terrifying territory she had ever inhabited. The whiteboards were covered in market data, financial projections, and competitor analyses. The air smelled of strong coffee and marker ink. It was the smell of Marcus Thorne's brain at work. And, to his astonishment, he invited her to think alongside him. He didn't dictate tasks, he presented problems. Marcus, pointing to a chart: "The numbers say we should acquire Innovate Tech. My analysts are unanimous, but something is bothering me. Their company culture is radically different from ours. Look at this employee retention data. What do you see here that I'm not seeing?" At first, Elena hesitated, the imposter syndrome screaming in her mind. But the problem was a puzzle, and her mind, by its very nature, loved to solve them. She dove into the data, and the fear gave way to focus. She pointed to a small anomaly, a trend that everyone else had overlooked, and articulated a theory that was both simple and brilliant. Marcus was silent for a long moment, just looking at her. His gaze wasn't that of a boss evaluating a subordinate. It was that of an equal. "I pay 6 analysts with Ivy League MBAs, and not one of them saw this." In her head, she thought, "He sees me. For the first time in my professional life, someone is truly seeing me. Not the secretary, not the girl who gets the coffee. He's seeing my mind. And this feeling, it's as dangerous as Saturday night. Because now I have something to lose."
While analyzing a failed deal from the company's past, Marcus made a cynical comment, almost to himself. "I trusted the wrong CEO back then. He showed me beautiful spreadsheets just like this one, but the numbers lied."
The small confession, the admission of a past failure, was a crack in his armor. It created an unexpected connection, a silent understanding about the danger of deceptive appearances, a theme that resonated dangerously in Elena's soul. Extracurricular activities, is that what you call them? Elena responded stiffly, her eyes narrowing at Camilla's insolent question. Camilla poured herself a glass of water, her movements slow and deliberate. I imagine Marcus has a good eye for hidden talents. I just wonder if he knows the full extent of yours. I hear the parties in Soho on the weekend are unforgettable. If words were physical, Camilla's would have pierced Elena's chest and stopped her heart. The blood drained from her face. The water bottle slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a dull thud. Camilla's smile widened. She knew. I don't know what you're talking about. Camilla laughed, a low, joyless sound. Oh, please, let's not insult each other's intelligence. We both know exactly what I'm talking about. But here's the good news. Your secret is perfectly safe with me. On one small condition, of course. Camilla moved closer, invading Elena's personal space, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. You're brilliant, I'll admit it. What you did with the Innotech data was genius, and you're going to continue to be genius. You'll work late, you'll find all the anomalies, you'll have all the revolutionary ideas, and then you will give it all to me. Every report, every insight, every presentation. You'll be the brains, and I will be the face. You will be my ghostwriter. In exchange, the image of the hardworking little saint that Marcus has of you remains intact. It was a diabolical plan in its simplicity. She didn't want money. She wanted Elena's career, her mind, her soul. The chance that Elena had glimpsed, the door that Marcus had opened, Camilla was about to lock it and throw away the key. Do we have an agreement? Or should I schedule a meeting with HR to discuss employee extracurricular activities? Trapped. There was no other word for it. Elena looked at Camilla's triumphant face, and with a nearly imperceptible nod, she surrendered. The light of hope that had ignited in her heart over the last few days was extinguished, leaving only a cold, suffocating darkness. Entering Camilla's office now. The days that followed turned into a torturous routine for Elena. The nights were her heaven and her hell. In the sanctuary of Meeting Room 3, she and Marcus would fall into a rhythm of collaboration so intense that the rest of the world disappeared. Her mind, finally free, would soar. He challenged her, and she didn't just respond, she surpassed him, revealing a strategic insight that left him genuinely impressed. In those moments, under the soft glow of the desk lamp, she felt seen, valued, almost happy. But dawn always came, and with it the reality of the day. Elena's first task every morning was a ritual of self-annihilation, attaching her night's work to an email and sending it to Camilla, with the subject line, Materials for the Report. Every click of the mouse was a small act of betrayal against herself and against Marcus. Hours later, in the main conference room, the humiliation was public. Camilla, standing at the head of the table, would present Elena's words, Elena's ideas, as if they were born from her own mind. And Elena had to watch. She had to maintain a neutral expression as the executives praised Camilla's brilliant vision. Every compliment was a whip against her back.
Marcus watched it all, and the dissonance was driving him mad. The brilliant, articulate woman with whom he debated strategies until midnight transformed into a silent statue during the day. In contrast, Camilla, who could barely articulate an intelligent question about the data, suddenly became a visionary. In one meeting, he pressed her with a technical question about one of her own projections. Camila stammered, deflected, and gave a vague answer, saved at the last second by a comment from another director. Marcus saw it. He saw the panic in Camilla's eyes, and for an instant, the flicker of pain in Elena's. He didn't have the answer, but now he knew with certainty that he was asking the right question. Interior, Meeting Room 3, night. They were surrounded by cartons of Thai takeout and projection charts. The city glittered outside, but their world had shrunk to this small room. The exhaustion had broken down the professional barriers, leaving space for an unspoken intimacy. As they both reached for the same report on the table, their hands brushed. It wasn't a quick touch, but a contact that lingered for a second too long. Elena felt a warmth that spread up her arm, an electric shock that made her hold her breath. She pulled her hand back as if she'd been burned. Marcus, his voice is low, almost a whisper. It's incredible how you see things. It's like you don't just look at the numbers. You see the story behind them, what's beneath the surface. Internal monologue. If only you knew what was beneath my surface, Marcus. A fraud, a liar, a coward. You admire me for a mind that I'm forced to give away to someone else. You admire an integrity I no longer possess. Elena, without looking at him, sometimes what's on the surface is just a performance to survive. Marcus felt the melancholy in her words. He wanted to ask what she was hiding, but he knew it wasn't the right time. Instead, he found himself drawing closer, pulled in by the vulnerability she tried so hard to conceal. The work for the night was done. They were standing now, side by side, looking at a large chart on the wall. The only light came from a desk lamp, casting a soft glow on their faces. Marcus, you look exhausted, more than usual. He was standing in front of her now, the space between them charged with electricity. Before her mind could register it, he reached a hand to her face and gently brushed back a strand of hair that had fallen across her eyes. The touch of his fingers on her skin was both comforting and dangerous. Elena forgot to breathe. Internal monologue. No, don't do this. Don't be kind to me. Don't look at me like that. It's easier when you're the CEO. It's easier when the distance is safe. Don't make me want something I can't have. He leaned in slowly. Elena's heart was a war. Half of her yearned for this kiss, for one single moment of truth and connection in the midst of her hell of lies. The other half screamed in panic, tasting the betrayal on her tongue. How could she kiss him with Camilla's lie on her lips? Her phone, forgotten on the table, vibrated. The sound was like a gunshot in the silence, violent and profane. The screen lit up with a message from Camilla. Report for tomorrow, 7 a.m. No excuses. The digital leash. The spell shattered instantly. Elena pulled back as if she'd been physically pushed, her face burning with shame. I'm sorry. I have to go. It's really late. I have to... She didn't finish the sentence, just gathered her things with trembling hands and practically fled from the room, not looking back. Marcus was left behind, alone in the dim light, his hand still in the air, the echo of her touch on his fingers. The confusion on his face hardened into dark frustration. She was hiding something, and he wasn't going to allow it anymore. Interior, Elena's apartment, same night. The door to her apartment closed behind Elena, and the click of the lock sounded like the sealing of a tomb. She leaned against the cool wood, her entire body trembling. The ghost of Marcus's touch, the tenderness in his face, the promise of that almost kiss, it was all an exquisite torture. Because the message from Camilla on her phone was the reality. That moment of almost real connection only served to illuminate the depths of the fraud she was living.
She walked to the small bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. But the woman staring back at her was a stranger. Her eyes were hollow, frightened. Her mouth a thin line of tension. That wasn't Elena. It was a marionette, her strings pulled by Camilla's cruelty and her own fear. Who are you? What have you become? You're hiding, lying to the one man who has treated you with dignity, all to protect a woman who despises you. Why? For the job? For money? My mother fought her illness with a courage I can't even fathom, and I surrendered in the first battle. She is fighting for her life, and I can't even fight for my own. The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow. To continue in silence wasn't a survival strategy. It was a slow suicide of the soul. She was trading her integrity, her self-worth, and her chance at a real connection for an illusory security. The fear of being fired, which had paralyzed her for so long, suddenly seemed small in comparison to the fear of looking in the mirror tomorrow and not recognizing herself at all. In that moment, the decision was forged. It wasn't a choice about Marcus. It was a choice about herself. She would no longer be Camilla's ghostwriter. She would rather be an unemployed woman who was whole. The next morning, Elena walked to Marcus's office with a calm she hadn't felt in weeks. It was the eerie calm of someone who has already accepted the worst. She knocked on the door and entered before he could answer. There were dark circles under her eyes, but her posture was erect, her expression firm. Marcus looked up from his documents, surprised. "Sir, I need 5 minutes of your time." Her voice didn't tremble. Marcus sensed the shift in her energy and gestured to the chair. "I'd rather stand." She took a deep breath. The point of no return had arrived. "The work that Camilla has been presenting in this project, it's mine. Every word, every number. On this drive are all of my original files, time-stamped." She spoke without emotion, the bare, raw facts. And then she told him everything. About her mother's illness, the desperation for money, the night at the party mansion. She told him about David's harassment, her fear in the elevator, and Camilla's precise and cruel blackmail. She didn't cry. She didn't make excuses. She just reported the facts with a brutal honesty. As she spoke, the pieces clicked into place in Marcus's mind. Her brilliance in their late-night sessions, her passivity in the meetings, Camilla's superficiality. His confusion morphed into a cold, controlled rage, fury at Camilla, at his friend, and at himself for not seeing it sooner. But above all, he felt a wave of overwhelming respect for the courage of the woman standing before him. "This is my resignation. I can no longer work this way." Marcus listened until she was finished. He looked up the resignation letter on his desk, and with a single finger, he slowly pushed it back toward her. "I don't accept it." The project follow-up meeting was in full swing. Camilla, ignorant of the coming storm, was at the head of the room, confidently presenting Elena's last work as her own. She was taking compliments, smiling, on top of her world. "Frankly, Camilla, your analysis of the innovate tech culture is brilliant. It's the kind of insight that defines a career." Camilla was about to smile and accept the praise when Marcus's voice, calm and dangerously sharp, cut through the air. "Thank you, Camilla. Your talent for presenting other people's work is truly remarkable." A shocked silence fell over the room. Camilla's smile froze, then crumbled. The color drained from her cheeks. Marcus stood up, his gaze sweeping over everyone in the room before landing on Elena. "For the record, the true and sole architect behind every insight, every projection, and every word of the strategy you just praised is Elena. The risk analysis, the cultural mitigation strategy, it was all her work, performed under professional duress and blackmail." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle.
Due to this demonstration of genius and integrity under extreme pressure, as of this moment, Elena is no longer the project assistant. She is the new director of Special Projects Strategy, reporting directly to me. All communications, questions, and directives regarding this and future projects in this area will be directed to her. Congratulations on the promotion.
Elena watched the scene, feeling no triumph, no joy. She felt a profound melancholy, a sadness for the brilliant woman Camila could have been if she hadn't been consumed by insecurity and envy. And then she felt peace, a deep, clean silence in her soul. The storm had finally passed. The sky was clearing, and for the first time, she was ready to see what the future held for her. The sun was setting over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The city lights began to ignite, a galaxy of promises at their feet. Elena was at her new desk, organizing her thoughts, when Marcus appeared at her door. His suit jacket was gone, the sleeves of his shirt rolled up. He didn't look like the CEO. He looked like a man. "Can I have a word?" She nodded, and he came in, not to sit behind his imposing desk, but to join her by the massive glass wall. They watched the twilight in a comfortable silence for a long moment. "Marcus, what you did today, Elena, walking in here, putting your resignation on my desk, ready to lose everything for the sake of the truth, it was the bravest thing I have ever witnessed in this building." Elena looked at him, seeing a vulnerability in his eyes she never imagined was possible. "For years, I've lived in this bubble, surrounded by people who smile and agree, people like Camila, who are masters of manipulating appearances. I became cynical, tired. I forgot what authenticity looked like. And then you showed up. First at that party, terrified, but with a dignity that outshone all the lights in the place. And today, in here, you showed me the truth." He turned to her, his body inches from hers, the city forgotten behind him. "You didn't change me, Elena. You reminded me of who I wanted to be before all of this made me hard. You reminded me of what integrity is." This was their grand declaration, but not in the way fairy tales describe. It wasn't about love at first sight, but about a deep, hard-won respect. I found myself respecting the professional, then admiring the woman, and now I realize I can't imagine making another important decision, whether in this office or in my life, without you by my side. I fell in love with the woman who fought for her mother, who survived blackmail, and who had the strength to stand up and take her life back. That's the woman I want to build a future with. It's you. Silent tears rolled down Elena's face, but for the first time, they were tears of joy. At that party, you were the only one who defended me. You treated me like a person when everyone else saw an object. And today, you didn't save me, Marcus. You gave me the space and the confidence so that I could save myself. And that was the truth that sealed their fate. He leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a kiss of overwhelming passion, but of profound certainty. It was a kiss of recognition, of respect, of relief. It was the sound of two souls finally speaking the same language. A kiss that tasted like the truth.
6 months later, the director of strategy, Elena, concluded her presentation to the board. The project she had led was a resounding success. When she finished, a gray-haired executive who once barely noticed her stood up to lead a round of applause. From his seat at the table, Marcus watched, not with the pride of a boss, but with the love of a partner. She had earned that respect on her own. 1 year later, on a sunny autumn day, Elena and Marcus stood beside Sarah, her mother, at the entrance to a hospital.
Sarah's face was radiant with health and happiness. The treatment, paid for in full by Elena's new and well-deserved director's salary, had been a success. The cycle of desperation that started everything was finally closed by her own two hands. 2 years later, their wedding wasn't a corporate event, but an intimate celebration at a winery. The vows, which they wrote themselves, didn't speak of soulmates or fairy tales. They spoke of partnership, of admiring each other's strength, of promising to be each other's safe harbor, not to hide from the world, but to find the strength to face it together. 3 years later, Elena stood at a podium in a ballroom, Marcus beside her in the front row. Behind her, a banner read, "Launch of the Summit Foundation for Employee Well-Being." Elena, because no one should have to choose between their dignity and the well-being of the one they love. This foundation exists to ensure that every member of our team has the support they need to face life's crises, not as employees, but as human beings. Their story was never about a prince saving a damsel. It was about a woman who found her own sword, and a man who was wise enough to recognize a queen when he saw one. Together, they didn't live happily ever after, like in the books, but built something far more real and lasting, a partnership based on respect, a love forged in truth, and a legacy that turned one person's pain into the hope of many.